Welcome to the Inner Hoe Uprising, the podcast about sex, love, and dating from the perspective of me, Sam, one black, non-monogamous, pansexual feminist hoe who lives in New York City, whose pronouns are she and her, who is down with the resistance, who is grieving like the rest of us, and who wears a mask every time that I'm outside interacting with
and
people.
me, not at home.
Yeah, not
every
time, not all the time, every time. Like, I don't wear a mask in the shower.
24/7 and to sleep.
Yeah.
Shower masks, we need them, guys. Anyway, and me, Rodeka, a fat, black, non-monogamous, existentialist femme whose life is a series of coincidences that somehow landed her here.
Every episode of the Inner Hoe Uprising works like this. Myself and my lovely rotating co-hosts talk about sex, love, and dating as it pertains to current events in the world, our lives, and yours. And occasionally we hit you with interviews with insightful folks or do deep dive episodes on a topic of our choice. This week, we are doing a deep dive episode on a topic of our choice, and that topic is a very fucking cool topic. To both of these people with the Tron backgrounds, the Tron-esque background.
Gotta see it on YouTube, but
you gotta see it on YouTube. It's fucking exclusive. This episode, we're getting into our futuristic hoe bags and getting into biohacking for sex. If you don't know, biohacking is the umbrella term for DIY citizen science biology that aims to improve human life. And it turns out there's a bunch of overlap between biohacking and sex. There's a bunch of overlap between biohacking and sex. Today, we're touching on aspects like nootropics to boost libido, cyborg clitorises, access in marginalized communities, ability, gender affirming hormone therapy, and extra limbs for playtime, and much, much more.
And if you would like to follow along with the conversation had in this podcast on social media, you can do so by using the hashtag InnerHoeUprising so we can see it, and the hashtag PodIn so other people can see it. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can do so at InnerHoeUprising without the G on Twitter, InnerHoeUprising on Instagram and Facebook. And you can join our Facebook group by searching Inner Hoe Uprising, CUMMUNITY. Head to innerhoeuprising.com to sign up for weekly goodies via our newsletter, Pay Your Hoe, or to check out some merchandise. Oh, it's time, y'all.
It's not time. It's not time until you dim
the lights.
And you grab the kente strip.
Yes.
And the principal co-ho lets you know that if you're freaking with the vision and down with the vibes, do us a favor and hit subscribe. We're doing R&B today. If you want to support the hoes and see a success spike, do us a favor and go and click like. If you keep up with the conversation during your time spent, do us a favor and comment your thoughts and opinions, your thoughts and opinions, your thoughts and opinions. Please click that like bell. Otherwise, you go to hell. That's been the principal co-ho. Tell him what you need to know. Oh, yo. What the fuck is everyone?
Yeah, sometimes it comes in your spirit, and you just gotta let it out. I felt it.
That's my ancestors. Real. That's my ancestors speaking through
you.
Me. Exactly. And they're like in the corner, like nodding each other, like this old dumb bitch. Like,
don't blame us for that shit.
We have the worst lineage of all time. You are the disappointing link on our lineage. No, I hope not.
Shaking their head. Nah, man, you're great. We're proud
of you. Thank you. And if you want to pay us to speak virtually at your school or conference about sex positivity, Black feminism, podcasting, or other kinds of things that we discuss on this here show, or if you'd like us to host a consent, pleasure, or dating virtual workshop for your organization, we would love to. So to book us, you can send us a line to ihupodcast@gmail.com. That email is in the show notes. Now we're getting into a segment that we like to call Hoe of the Week. It's where we shout out the homies who have supported Inner Hoe Uprising in the past week. Hoes of the Week get special nicknames, and the game, if they choose to participate, is to guess the meaning behind their nicknames. This week, we had a couple of Hoes of the Week. We got Rome, aka Jerome's in the house. I said Jerome's in the house. who became a patron on Patreon. I appreciate the dance over there, Rod.
Yeah, I gotta hype you up.
We got Feminist Fatale, whose nickname is Feminist Fatale, aka the artiste, who upped their pledge on Patreon. Thank you so much. We got Carla LT, whose nickname is CLT, like a BLT but better, who upped their pledge on Patreon. We got Reggie, aka Reggie Rockets, who became a patron on Patreon. If this is the same Reggie who commented on iTunes a couple of weeks ago, then great, because that's the same nickname. If not, gotta give you a new nickname, and I'm sorry.
Let us know.
I feel like Reggie is not that common of a nickname.
It's not. So, I know 0 Reggies.
I know 1 Reggie my whole life.
Okay.
Yeah, his name was Reginald. Maybe that should be the new nickname. Anyway, we have Maya W, aka M Dubs, who became a patron on Patreon, and we got Anna Lucia V, aka Audio Visual, who became a patron on Patreon. If you would like to be a hoe of the week and get a cool nickname, here are some things you can do. You can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. You can feature us in an article you've written. You can shout us out on social media. These are all non-monetary ways that you can support the hoes. We love both monetary and non-monetary support. And we understand that in these uncertain times, monetary support is not feasible for many folks. It's literally now more than ever. It's like every day it actually gets now more
than ever. Yes.
Yeah. So anybody who does support us monetarily, we really, really appreciate that. But if you can't, don't sweat it, baby. Don't sweat it. Don't spend your last dollars on us. Put you in use first. But if you can spare some extra change, you can donate to us on PayPal by going to paypal.me/innerho. You can go to Patreon on Patreon by going to patreon.com/innerhouprising, or you can purchase some merchandise by going to innerhouprising.com/merchandise, the links to which are in the show notes. Also, a reminder that if you do become a patron on Patreon, for $2 a month, you can participate in things like our Slack chat, our patron-only film nights. We got to watch Check It one of these days.
Yeah, I'm ready.
And for $5 a month, you can join our Monday night Zoom hangouts. And any Patreon tier, you can receive access to our episodes a few days early, and entry to our workshops and parties, and entry to our pre-recording Zoom hangouts. We just had one, and we were talking about blue eyebrows and hair wax and Lovecraft country, and the fact that no one in Brooklyn wants to wear a mask.
Yes, Brooklyn is disrespectful. That was the main topic, but yes.
Where Brooklyn at?
In the dumps.
Oh, shit, damn. Nah, there's mad people Brooklyn, who are gonna come for
I just want to say, please, y'all.
There's mad. It's like I always get like the Arkansas, Alabama kind of heat. You're asking I did it way too close to home. Type of heat.
And niggas here don't like. They're not friendly. They're gonna come up and be like, yo, don't ever talk about this place ever. I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't mean to do that.
One of my moments of just like, damn, Brooklyn, like, just like, shut up for a second, man. You know, like any event that you go to and like, where's Staten Island? Nobody talks because Staten Islanders, they live in Racistville. They don't leave. Sorry to the Black Staten Islanders. Love you guys. Where's the Bronx at? BX all day. Where the Queens at? And then Brooklyn comes and these niggas, they yell for the next 16 hours. They're yelling until the party ends. Blah,
the DJ tries to move on and they're just like, nah, I heard Brooklyn. What's up? What's up? Yeah.
So that's the thing that happens. It's been happening all of our lives, my entire life. But one time I was at an event in Queens and that still happened. And I was just like, I'm over you guys.
Y'all don't even go here. Excuse me?
I thought you didn't even like it here. Oh, don't come to Queens anyway. It's always Road, Lane, Avenue, Street. Shut the fuck up, man. We have the best food. We have parking. I live here.
A fact. The most diversity. It's just a good time. And like, even not having lived in Queens for a while, if I say I'm from Queens, even if I'm sitting in Brooklyn with you and I've been here, Queens is a dub. Don't come to the parties then. Don't come
That's a fact. That's y'all niggas do be coming to our parties and causing ruckus.
Acting like they doing us a favor. Go.
Exactly. We were having a grand old time without
you.
Welcome to the Brooklyn Slander Podcast.
Now that that's done.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into the self-care tip of the week. We love all of New York. This is a segment where we give you some advice onto how to care for yourself for the week. This week's self-care tip is less of a tip and just a pointing you in the direction of resources. So I think I'm going to jump off a ledge and say, I think it's safe to say that at some point this year you have grieved something if you are listening to this podcast. So whether it's
Absolutely.
what's going on in Kenosha or just all of this country in regards to racial violence, or all of the world in regards to racial
Mm-hmm.
violence, whether it's the passing of Chadwick Boseman or Kobe Bryant or Naya Rivera, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's continuously seeing stories about Black trans folks who have been murdered or beaten, whether it's opportunities, plans, and friendships that you've lost during shelter in place. There is just a lot of stuff to grieve this year, and it seems like it is happening back to back to back to back to back. So, on this episode, we're not talking about any of that. So allow this to be a space where you can find some reprieve today, where you don't have to think about said things. However, if you do find yourself needing help processing your grief and podcasting is your medium of choice, which I would think because you're listening to a podcast right now, we're going to drop a link of a playlist of podcasts that may help you along the way. Podcasts all about grief and processing grief. Shout out to Barry from Podcasts in Color who curated this list. We've all been grieving collectively all year, and we could all probably benefit from the resources. So feel free to use those. The link will be in the show notes. And love you guys, man.
We
Stay
do.
up.
We're here with you, and we love you for sure.
Keep your head up. Woo, child. Things are gonna be easier.
Not the
That's
gas but ahead of like you were just like, I'm about to bust this note out. Yo, I felt that. Ooh, child.
was from the Brooklyn Slander podcast to the fucking Sam Can't Sing podcast. Just love these renditions.
It's just rendition variety.
Yeah,
You
a
know, you
good
never know. You
a
never know what's around
fucking
the corner.
it's a career shift. I'm just trying
That's
out new
it.
things, man. All right. Well, a few weeks ago, Akua talked about the importance of a morning routine in the beginning. A few weeks ago, Akua talked all about the importance of a morning routine and beginning with a great foundation to your day. One part of my morning routine is actually making up my bed. It's one of the first things I accomplish for the day and also prepares me for when I'm ready to hop back in at night. There's nothing better than getting in a bed that's already made. And you
Yeah.
fucking or like take off your sheets that you left there, not your sheets, your clothes, your laundry that you left there,
Yep.
whatever else you left there, just like hopping into bed feels mad good. And one of the best parts of hopping and making your bed, hopping into your bed after making it, is the wonderful feeling of the sheets that you're hopping into. And for your bed sheet needs, we're going to have to recommend that you go with Brooklyn. So it went from a Brooklyn slander podcast to a Brooklinen two thumbs up
Positivity.
podcast. Exactly.
Yes.
Once again, a career shift, a good career change. So we're not talking about the borough Brooklyn anymore. We're talking about the company Brooklinen, which is actually founded by two people from Brooklyn. It is home of the internet's favorite bed sheets. Both Rebecca and I have Brooklinen sheets coming to a bed near us, and I'm super excited because not only are these sheets super affordable, but they're also high quality and great to look at. Brooklinen has options for you, a variety of sheets, color patterns, and materials for your lounging needs. They are classic percal, cool and crisp with timeless matte finish, luxe satin, buttery smooth cotton sheets, linen, of course, airy and effortlessly chic, made with the highest quality flax in the world, and heathered cashmere, made for sweater weather, keeping you comfy and cozy. You need some of that for when fall
Yeah.
comes around. Brooklinen sheets are the perfect place to start making your mornings great. Brooklinen is so confident in their product that all of their bedding comes with a lifetime warranty. Get 10% off your first order and free shipping when you use promo code IHU only at brooklinen.com. That is BROOKLINEN.com/IHU. That's I as in inner, H as in ho, U as in uprising. Brooklinen, everything you need to live your most comfortable life. I love
I
comfort.
like that.
I
I
love
do.
comfort.
Don't
All right.
you?
Yeah, it's good. It's one of the best parts of life, actually. Now we were talking about bees today. We started with Brooklyn. Now we're talking about Brooklinen. Now let's go to very good bee. biohacking.
What a transition. What a transition.
Be trying. I just practice transitioning in the mirror every day for anything. All
Just
transitions.
all transitions, all scenarios got to be effortless and smooth. And
Exactly.
I see it.
Thank
It's
you.
very rehearsed, but you can't even tell.
I'm glad that you F with the vision.
I do.
All right. Well, we're getting into a topic that we like to call Fuck It. It is our topic of the day. And we're talking about biohacking for sex. What's going on here? What does that even
for sex.
mean?
What does it mean, y'all? So, you know, on IHU, we're not strangers to talking about where technology and sex meet. In fact, it's one of our favorite things to talk about. So, biohacking is kind of sounds like futuristic and all that type of stuff, but it's happening now. It's very real. It's very present day. And it basically aims to improve the many facets of being human, including and especially sex. We will be talking about what biohacking is, its subcultures, biohacking sex through chemicals and tech, and how biohacking affects disabled trans folks who may not have access to our tech-filled future. So, biohacking. So biohacking is an extremely broad term that can cover a huge range of activities, from performing science experiments on yeast or other organisms to tracking your own sleep and diet, changing your own biology by pumping a younger person's blood into your veins in the hopes that it'll fight aging.
Teen
No,
blood.
that is not a joke.
That is an actual thing. Teen blood.
Teen blood. People are doing this right now. So many questions.
Literally right
You know
now.
what? Fine.
Literally, like
that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
This is past. This is happening right under your nose.
Yeah.
So the type of biohackers that are currently gaining the most attention are the ones who experiment outside of traditional lab spaces and institutions and on their own bodies with the hopes of boosting their physical and cognitive performance. They form one branch of transhumanism, a movement that holds that human beings can and should use technology to augment and evolve our species. So I think this is a little while ago, but you may have heard me refer to myself as a transhumanist, which is why this topic has interested me so much. I really delved into biohacking personally and transhumanism communities since COVID started. It was kind of like my way of grasping or feeling like I had some type of agency over what my body was doing, because I was never more aware of the fact that I was a human being and I was existing and all this stuff. Then when, there's this unseen force that could change everything, So that's definitely where my interest peaked and also has continued, and it's been kind of like a little side project of mine, just researching, going on these communities, ordering things, experiment. It's been a fun time. So when the opportunity came up, I was like, we got to talk about this. So some biohackers have science PhDs and others are complete amateurs. Their way of trying to hack biology is as diverse as they are. There's no one size fits all way of doing this. But as a disclaimer, we're going to talk about this, but in no way are we saying, all right, do this, we're giving you a how-to guide. None of that is happening. We're just telling you that it is happening, but it's all purely experimental. And while some aspects are backed by science, it all comes with an inherent risk.
Yes.
So there's some subcultures. There's three major ones of biohacking. There's nutrigenomics. Do you think that's how it says?
I think so.
Nutrigenomics. Yeah.
Oh, nutrigenomics.
Nutrigenomics. There you go. So nutrigenomics focuses on how the food you eat interacts with your genes. So it's popular but controversial type of biohacking, and is founded on the idea that your body's total genetic expression can be mapped out and optimized by testing how different nutrients affect your health. Ignore that part. Ignore your health. Affect your health. Nutrigenomics is also related to other subcategories in biohacking like sleep manipulation, exercise, attention hacking, adjusting environmental triggers like sound and light. You might have heard someone saying that you need to turn off blue light before you go to bed so you can sleep better. These are all different forms of biohacking, and stress management, which is very important nowadays. So yes, right? Exactly. So nutrigenomics,
genomics.
one of the genomics, sorry. Nootropics, did you get neurotropics or did you get something else? Because when I Googled how to pronounce it, it's nootropics.
Oops, I was just reading it. My
Okay.
bad. So I
Oh,
messed
no,
up.
you're fine. I'm the type of person to be like, Sam knows.
No, I don't. Damn,
Okay,
I
it's
have to do the
nootropics.
intro
No,
again then. Because I said
I think you said
neurotropics.
neuro. Yeah, I think you said
Fucking hell.
neuro.
Okay.
But neurotropics are one aspect of nutrigenomics,
Nootropics.
genomics. Yes, nootropics. Yes. They are substances in natural supplement or food and beverage form used to increase cognitive function. This can include your mood, productivity, or attention span. The most popular and most commonly used nootropic is caffeine. You're already
There you go.
biohacking. You don't
Wow.
even know about
Every
it.
single
Every day,
morning. That's
it's
wild.
supposed to pep you up and it changes your function and your focus. And that's what a nootropic is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the coffee
It's stuff
nap
that
that
you,
I do is an even advanced version of that. I've been hacking
exactly.
myself this whole time since college.
Yeah. You didn't even know. And
That's
now
cool.
you're a scientist, basically. Sorry, Sam's not a
Yes.
scientist, but
No, I
yes, she's a
definitely
scientist.
am. I definitely
You are. You're bending shit, you know. Adaptogens. So adaptogens are a select group of herbs or some mushrooms that support the body's natural ability to deal with stress. They are called adaptogens because of their unique ability to adapt their function according to the specific needs of the body. This may be physical, chemical, or biological needs. A good one that a lot of people know about is reishi mushrooms, which is supposed to help with your immunity and your longevity. It's very most adaptogens are very based off of Chinese medicine. So you'll look back on all that stuff and they've been using it for years, but now it's becoming more popular and something that we're talking about modern day.
more westernized.
Yes, more westernized, which comes with its own implications, but we'll get to that later. Intravenous nutrient therapy or IV therapy. This one's a little extreme, but there's a lot of IV therapies that are IV therapy centers that are claiming to offer the most direct way to introduce vitamins and minerals into the bloodstream. You don't think about it, but if you were to Google it, there's probably one in your town or one that's like in a major city near you. It's popping up, and they're doing it. Since the digestive tract is being avoided, and assumption is much more efficient, and there's no gastric stress. That's why they're saying that, you know, if you want to take these B12 vitamins, it's being absorbed in your stomach and being burnt up. So the best way to do it is to go straight to the vein. And their offerings tend to focus on immunity and reducing the effects of aging and stress. I see your face.
Is that one like validated?
So yes. So one thing that's happening now is there's this, not stigma, but there's definitely been flack from the community saying that supplements in general are useless. And the reason why is because it's going into your stomach and it's being eroded. And most of it, like, you're getting like 5% of what the supplement actually contains. So what a huge emphasis has been going on is bioavailability, which is creating or changing these substances that you would normally take the pure form and making them into something that's easily digestible. So you can kind of break them down into a different molecule that will make it easier to absorb if you're taking it in capsule form, or IV therapy actually does bypass the stomach and go straight to it. Now, do you need that much B12? Do you need, like, so
is
that's
there
the
a
difference.
benefit in
Exactly.
your life?
You are passing the stomach. You are technically getting more of this nutrient, but do you need 300 milligrams of B12?
I gotta have my B12.
That's where, you know, that's where the controversy comes in, because you could be over supplementing for something that you don't really need. So nutrigenomics, genomics also looks at how different nutrients affect how you feel, think, and behave. B12 is one of them. A lot of people know about that one. Iron, stuff like that we kind of hear about from doctors, or in general, that's definitely falling under what biohacking is, or nutrigenomics.
Okay.
There's also DIY biology. So DI bio, that's a shortened version of that, is a biohacking subculture of people who conduct biological experiments and study life sciences outside of conventional means. It started in the early 2000s. So many teachers in this subcultures are former educators or scientific researchers who want to show the average person how to conduct experiments. So they'll be on forums saying, you know, this is what I learned in school. This is how you can do it at home. They share tips and techniques to help non-experts conduct structured experiments on themselves outside of a controlled experimental environment like labs or medical offices. Now, even hearing that doesn't always sound.
I'm curious about, because I was going down a path there before I got
Yeah.
to experiments on themselves, because that scared me. But the outside of labs, like what, like in a lab that's run by an institution, because like what are they doing on their bathroom floor? Like, and could it just be you creating your own lab? You know what I mean?
It could, and that's where it varies, because obviously anybody can pick it up and go, hey, like, I want to do this experiment. I'm going to follow these YouTube steps, or this one person tells me something. And you could do it in like a crude sense where you're just on your bathroom floor figuring it out. And they do give you the tools for that. But most people who are like super serious about it, and depending on the resources that they can obtain, you know, they have like these testing kits, or they're doing like all these experiments by building their own labs.
Gotcha.
So it definitely ranges, but they give them all the tools of what it is that they can do and how, depending on what, like I said before, the resources they have, that's how more intricate it becomes.
Can I shout out something?
Yeah, absolutely. This is back and forth here.
This is also my podcast. Oh shit!
Whoa, that's crazy. That's crazy.
I've talked about this on the show before, but there's this space in Brooklyn, where Brooklyn at, called Gen Space, and I don't actually know if they consider themselves biohackers. It's run by I think they're all geneticists. Janina from In Those Jeans podcasts, which I produce, is on the board. It's a community science space, so you don't have to be a scientist or be trained in biology to utilize the space. And you also, like, they host classes where they teach people certain, like, I think they teach like how to, I don't want to lie. I feel like they have like certain gene editing courses, not gene editing on yourself, but on like yeast or something like that, or microorganisms, for example. Which is
biohacking.
Right. And you can do like a 6-week course, and that's you're not a scientist and you're not doing it in school or anything. It is a really dope space. So I feel like they're biohacking. So shout out to the home piece. That was a long way to say shout out. I went to one of their classes with one of my friends, and we did microbe painting, where it was genetically edited E. coli, like deadened or like weakened or whatever, so they can't affect you, but you still wear gloves and all that kind of stuff and wash your hands after you leave. The E. coli is manipulated to give off different colors after it interacts with like UV light for a certain time. So we like use the different ones and like made things on little petri dish plates or whatever. It's called agar art.
That's cool as hell. Excuse me.
So one of my things was a black power fist breaking change, which is basically this tattoo that I have here. Only YouTubers can see it. And that was supposed to emphasize like breaking down boundaries or barriers towards people of color entering science.
Nice.
Specifically entering science. But my second painting, it's just the word "these nuts."
Oh my god. It's like I hold my breath like, man, she's laughing, but it could be anything, and it has to be classic Sam, which is "these nuts."
Oh man. Yeah, that was a fun time. So shout out to Gen Space. When the world opens back up, I would suggest people go there who are interested in like biohacking.
That's dope. I definitely want to go there now, for sure. Well, not now, eventually. But we talked about DIY bio. We talked about nutrigenomics, but the last, but certainly not least, and we'll be talking about them quite a bit today, are grinders. So grinders are
the gay dating app.
Yeah, and that's I know that's probably the first thing, like, wait a minute, grinders is out here sciencing it up. Nah, they're same name, different MO. Okay, so grinders are a biohacking subculture that sees every part of the human body as hackable. In general, grinders seek to become cyborgs by optimizing their body with a combination of gadgets, chemical injections, implants, or anything else that they can put into their bodies to make it work how they want it to. Grinder communities identify with transhumanist and biopunk ideologies. We talked about transhumanist ideology, but for biopunk is a techno-progressive cultural and intellectual movement which advocates open access to genetic information and the potential of a truly democratic technological development. Biopunk encourages the DIY ethic. Grinders lean into an anarchist side of biopunk that emphasizes non-hierarchical science and DIY. So they're very like, we all want access to this. We all want to be able to do what we want to do. Anti-establishment, I was going to say holding, no, anti just like one person having the power. Everybody should have power to have agency over their own bodies. So Reddit and biohacking have a very unique relationship. I don't know if anybody knows about, I'm pretty sure everybody knows about Reddit, but Reddit is just like a community, it's like a forum website that it just has literally everything you can think of. There's probably a subreddit for it. So biohacking actually has a ton of subreddits. Research chemicals is one of them. Nootropics is one of them. Soylent, which is really about eventually having everybody just drinking their nutrients as opposed to really enjoying food. But it's really about having these nutrient well-rounded meals as well. So it could be a good thing. And it's supposed to be affordable. It's about $2 a meal. Biohacking, just the subreddit in general, and there's a transhumanism subreddit as well. There's a lot of different ones too. It's a lot of peer advice on different stacks. So stacks are when you're just combining any one of these things is usually associated with nootropics and for desired effects. So let's say I really want to be focus oriented and I want to sleep better. So they'll recommend different things that you can combine to each other. And a way to introduce yourself is also saying like what you're taking and what you're doing and for what. So that's kind of the bonding thing between people. And the ultimate goal is to bypass the medical community and achieve your goals from home. So biohacking for sex. Oh, was there something you wanted to say or no, you're just laughing?
Bypass the medical community is interesting.
Yeah.
If you need open heart surgery. Sorry.
We trying to have your buddy who knows how to do open heart surgery at home. I'm about to wash my hands. And I won't say that it's completely logical. There's definitely extremes where people are like, I don't ever want to have to go to a doctor. I want to be able to do this myself, or I want to be able to have a machine that does this for me. And it comes from the mistrust of the medical community and at large, to be honest. It's just like we've talked about this where we're just like, you come in for one thing and you don't ever get the right answers, or somebody doesn't really want to help you, or they think, they'll give you something when you really want to fix something yourself. And it's the same thing as like going home and you don't want to hire somebody to fix your house. You want to do it yourself. Is that dangerous? Yeah. Is that recommended? No.
My ideal world is a happy balance.
Yes.
And a balance that makes sense. Like
it's very easy to lean into it.
Democratic in and of itself and actually treats people in the ways that we need to be treated. But biohacking for sex, man.
Biohacking for sex. So we talked about why people might do it for a number of different reasons. But for sex, there's like a huge subset of people wanting to, kind of increase their libidos, increase their sex drive, do all this type of stuff that makes sex better because people enjoy sex. We love sex. If we could make it better, why not? Sometimes the libido fluctuates, social anxiety comes into play, stress, and a lot of other factors can get in the way of really enjoying sex. So people are using chemicals and herbs to circumvent those issues. People also use chemicals and herbs to mimic the euphoria that comes with traditional illegal drugs that usually lead to better sex. And they're going the legal route. Experimental, but legal.
Definitely interesting.
And the chemicals in herbs range from natural, which are adaptogens, to super synthetic, straight up made in the lab. And that's where you get to research chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
The more synthetic, the more regulation decreases and risk increases. So some examples of adaptogens that people use for sex. So we have ashwagandha root. It's listed in Kama Sutra. It is said to ignite passion and desire. It's an adaptogen that also is said to up the satisfaction by increasing blood flow to the sexual organs and making the whole act of sex a more intense experience.
I think it's Kama Sutra, though.
Kama Sutra? Did I put Kama Sutra? I did.
Yeah, you did.
Kama Sutra.
You come twice. It comes back to you.
It comes back around. Yeah. So listen in the Kama Sutra. Yeah. So maca root is also a nootropic. So you'll also notice that there's a lot of overlap in things because an adaptogen is set to help you with stress factors, but your stress can also be in the mind. So that's where it overlaps with a nootropic. They're kind of doing the same thing and they can definitely go hand in hand and also just be the same thing. So maca root is a nootropic. It's a Peruvian plant that is yet another adaptogen that has been focused on the focus of countless sex enhancing studies, and the evidence suggests that it works. The thing is, no one knows why it works. It just increases a person's sex drive. It doesn't have any hormones in it. It's just works. And it's also considered an aphrodisiac. Well, it works for the person. We can't say that any one thing works for every individual, but based off of the studies, it does have some improvement. It's considered an aphrodisiac, an energy promoter, and an all-around nutritional powerhouse.
So that people are like reporting like, yeah, my sex drive is higher.
Yep.
Okay. But it could be the placebo effect.
It could be, because if I hand you something and you say, hey, let me know if your sex drive is higher after this, you're not most likely, but it could happen where you say, I haven't seen any double-blind studies. I think people know they go into it the intention of taking something to boost their libido.
Okay. Interesting.
Tribulus is another adaptogenic herb that has a long history of supporting sexual function and desire, but has also been shown to improve mood and reduce stress and anxiety, which also have a negative impact on sex drive. And then there's Tongkat Ali, which is also a nootropic. It has been shown to support hormone balance, boost testosterone, reduce fatigue, and improve overall well-being. This is something that when I worked in a gym, which is very funny, I always saw on like some of those like pre-workout things, and you'll be surprised how they're in there, and it's supposed to like just kind of rev you up, but that can also be used in a sex aspect, and that's how people are using it.
That's cool.
Research shows, why not? Research shows it also reduces the production of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Then there's nootropics. Hold on,
I will say that Tribulus and Tongkat Ali both sound very sexual. Tribulus just sounds Tribulus sounds like I'm already thinking of. Like,
I think it might be the egg before the chicken type of thing. We don't know. Maybe they just like, this sounds kind of hot, so let me call it that. I don't know.
Tongkat. Stuck on that Tongkat. Put this
Tongkat. So now we're going on to nootropics for sex. There's ginseng, Panax ginseng. I think a lot of people have heard of ginseng. It's usually used for cognitive enhancement or general health purposes, but the root is also useful for improving erectile health. The higher doses help people with penises with erectile dysfunction and those who desire stronger erections. There's also alpha GPC or acetylcholine, basically boosting your boosting your acetylcholine. I'm going to say it again. It's used to boost your acetylcholine levels that can improve your sex life. So acetylcholine, or ACH, is the most abundant neurotransmitter in your nervous system, and it affects pretty much every system in the body, including libido and sex drive. ACH is necessary to send impulses from your brain to your nether regions, or your private parts.
Yo, genitals, baby.
It can also boost the level of nitrous oxide in your blood, another huge factor in sexual performance. Alpha GPC and acetylcholine are both potent sources of choline. By increasing your intake of choline, you can help your body produce more ACH and allow you to perform better. Both, and most of these things also have an overlap with athletes, but people also use it for sex as well.
Yeah, I'm curious about the phrase "perform better."
Yeah.
What does that mean?
And what I think
Stamina?
they didn't really emphasize, because I'm looking at it and it just says perform better. So I'm assuming that means stamina. I'm assuming that means no, what's the word? Not stamina, but like the effort that you put in more, like more thrust, which what I was gonna say, but maybe
No, that's actually two different things, right?
yeah, you know,
I see
like
what
the
you're saying.
difference between going longer and going harder. It's
Yeah,
both.
yeah.
That's yeah. So, and that's why there's that overlap between athletes and sex.
It feels very penis centric.
Yeah. Maybe
Or
that's
even
because,
like strap. But like I
but
don't
if you
know.
think about it, women or people with vaginas are just not not penises. They
Mm-hmm.
need to perform better too. I need to be able to like hop on
Okay.
top and, you know, I want to be
Okay.
able to do it. That's what I was thinking about it. And that could be because that's just
Okay.
what I usually want to be able to do longer. Because my
Okay.
God,
Okay. Maybe it sounds top centric. I'll say that.
yes, I
And
will say
as
that.
a bottom, I'm like, perform better. I'm just laying there.
Was well, this next one is actually a good one. So it's L-arginine. L-arginine is demonstrated to have the ability to boost sexual desire, vaginal dryness. So it combats that. Frequent people want to have sex more and they're reaching orgasm
Can you say
more.
frequency again? You froze. Sorry.
Sure. Frequency of sexual intercourse and orgasm. So they want to have sex more and they're reaching orgasm more on this.
Okay.
Clitoral sensation, and have demonstrated a significant improvement in erectile dysfunction. So this one's just working
All right. I
to
fuck with
you see,
L-arginine. I fuck with
L-arginine is the
L-arginine.
one that you want, because the other one's like, all right, well, I don't have any of those things. So nootropics are kind of like the middle ground between adaptogens and research chemicals, because they can be found in nature, but they're also usually synthesized a little bit more to make them stronger in labs. So they're definitely the halfway point. But then we get to research chemicals. So research chemicals are also called designer drugs and legal highs. They are a new synthetic substance that mimic existing drugs. Structurally, they're almost identical to the original drug, while different, just different enough to not be classified as the same substances. One that it just made me laugh because it was just like kind of smart, but one that I usually reference so people can kind of understand it is methylene, which is MDMC, is and has similar effects to MDMA. So
Yeah.
you see how that C, it makes it legal and it's something that I can purchase, but it's the same thing.
Wow. That's very
So
interesting.
yeah, science, man. Science just be out here doing some crazy shit.
Yeah.
So for example, one atom of the molecular structure is replaced or removed altogether. It means that they're not quite the same anymore, and it leads to a different effect, but it still has a psychoactive effect if that's what you desire. A substance that is structurally similar to another substance is called a chemical analog. So research chemicals are new and psychoactive chemical structures. Because they're new compounds, they can circumvent the law for their illegal counterpart and can be sold without the immediate risk of prosecution. That's why looking for the analogs, and what you might find on these subreddits is people specifically asking for one thing and saying, how can I make this as a research chemical, as opposed to getting the real thing. People who are really serious about it usually have a testing kit and a scale to ensure quality, but there is a lot of trial and error. They're not being regulated whatsoever. So people can order something, do a test, and it's something completely different and potentially dangerous. So it's definitely more underground, more risky. People use RCs to mimic things like MDMA, mushrooms, LSD, ecstasy, in order to have this euphoria of better sex, because if you've ever been on ecstasy having sex, you know it's tops. But it's
So what why is it not the drug?
so
Like for example, shrooms and LSD. I
mhm.
don't get it. It's just like the emotional feeling and not the psychoactive change? Like tripping, for example?
So
I sound like a
shrooms,
narc.
like tripping, for example. Have you ever tried the tripping? I'm sorry, I did not mean to make fun of you like that, but I heard it and I was like, oh.
I just had to acknowledge that because that sounded.
So it does have the psychoactive effect. Without completely incriminating myself, whatever. I have I have tried a research chemical before, and
Okay.
it's
What
like
did
a
you
mashup.
try?
I tried 2CB, which is a mashup between MDMA and LSD, right?
Sounds fucking
MDMA and
horrifying.
LSD.
I'm literally like, I'm not an narc, but that is so scary to me.
You're like, I don't even want this for you, man. What's going on over there? Look, COVID, man. COVID is when, and this all started then. But it's basically like MDMA and LSD. I was watching a documentary about this recently. They are the brainchild of a guy who was just experimenting with different chemicals, like compounds, and eventually to see what it did to his brain, just over and over again. People consider him like the godfather.
What's his name?
Let me find him.
This guy's pretty bad. He's just like,
yeah,
I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do, bro.
He was doing it with his wife at home and just having a great time. And these are legal chemicals, so they're just doing it. Anton Kolish.
Okay.
But no, that's not who it is. It's LSD. No,
creative LSD. Fuck is Anton
yeah, I'm saying
Kolish?
something completely wrong. Albert Hoffman. That's who it is.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was synthesizing things, trying all this type of stuff, having a time, right? And
so funny because he looks like the plainest white man I've ever seen in my entire life.
And here he is just like making something that will change the timelines to come.
Let's show YouTube for a second. Share. The fucking plainest.
Yeah, man.
He's having a grand old time. Look at that.
Doing his thing.
Shout out to the homie.
But that is what research chemicals basically are. They're taking what would be a compound that most people would ignore and seeing how you can manipulate it enough that I can buy this online.
So it's not
but
illegal.
When I ingest it, no.
It's not illegal because it's not the same substance. Not
exactly, because they say exactly because they change one part of the chemical compound. Like instead of it being 4 oxygens or whatever, it's 5 oxygens now, right? Slightly different, but now it's no longer illegal. And I can just order it and I can figure, but this is all experimental, experimental.
Who knows what that 4th oxygen molecule can do.
Exactly.
Okay, I understand.
So that's how they're able to kind of not immediately be like, okay, well, you're making MDMA. You're like, no, I'm making MDMC. Thank you very much. And that's what it is. But LSD and MDMA are both synthetic. So it's not hard to mimic that that reaction on the body. Mushrooms are a little more difficult because they're usually found in psilocybin, or it's found in nature. So you're trying to do it with something that is a raw material as opposed to just like, all right, MDMA is already a chemical, so let me just use that but change one thing. Designer drugs can also be substances that are not psychoactive in effect, such as analogs of controlled steroids or performance and image enhancing drugs, including nootropics. Nootropics are a form of research chemicals when they're synthetic, weight loss drugs, and erectile dysfunction medications. So pretty much anything can be a research chemical, because everything is chemicals. Everything that we are, everything that we ingest and all that type of stuff can be broken down to a chemical compound. So if you're trying to have a direct effect, or if you want to make something stronger, you can kind of change it up if you have a lab and you have the time and investment for it. I would not recommend going this route. I don't know why I need to say it, but because people are doing it and it might intrigue some people, but I 100% think that because you're literally using your body as this vessel for experimentation, you don't know what someone is selling you. You don't know how your own genetics will react to it, because it's a constant. What works for some doesn't work for everyone. Some people can't have coffee, and that's just plain coffee. they get the jitters, they get crazy, or some people, they're not affected by it at all. They get no boost whatsoever. And the same thing goes for all of the above. It's just, you never know how your body's going to react to something.
Yeah.
And research chemicals are the most volatile form of, not the most volatile, it's just taking the pure substance and going, well, hopefully I'm high like I was when I was taking MDMA. So, and that's why it's a little scary, as opposed to taking like ginseng, which is tea, and it's just different.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Q chemicals react by Ali and AJ.
Chemicals react.
Gotta have them on just to sing that for these fucking science episodes.
Gonna come on. What are they doing?
I haven't seen you guys in like 10 years. What are you doing here?
Come
My
on.
studio in Queens. Come on.
I'm sorry, guys.
Well, if this conversation in this episode so far resonating with you, helping you learn something new, helping you unlearn some old shit, or just allowing you to have a good ass time, what's that you say? It is? Well, we love to hear that. We also love for you to support the continuation of conversations like these. If you're listening to us on a podcast app, please take a moment to subscribe to us or drop us 5 stars and leave a rating for the homies. If you got a little extra change, you can drop some cash in the PayPal by going to paypal.me/innerho, or come join our Patreon community and access our chat and virtual events for as low as $2 a month by going to patreon.com/innerhouprising, or just hit up your friend and say, yo, listen to this good ass podcast. It's called Inner Ho Uprising. We thank and love you all for your continued support. Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Is it the pandemic? Is it the racial imbalance in the country? Is it the back-to-back grief that we discussed earlier in the episode? I know for me personally, it's all of the above. Which is why I love the online therapy service BetterHelp. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online. There's a broad range of expertise available, which may not locally be available in many areas. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You get timely and thoughtful responses, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. I just want to give one moment to stand my fucking therapist and all of the support that she gives me and just how much growth I've experienced over these past, I think it's like a year I've been using this now. Just like stand to the fucking queen, man. God. And over these past couple of months with this pandemic and all this shit,
it's different.
I don't know where I would be. I really don't know where I would be. And that's like facts. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today, as do we here at Inner Ho Uprising. You can visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily. You can see that by going to betterhelp.com/reviews. Visit betterhelp.com/IHU. That's BetterHelp. That's better HELP, and join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. We have a special offer for Inner Ho Uprising listeners, and that is that you can get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/IHU. Once again, that's betterhelp.com/I as in inner, H as in ho, U as in uprising. Now we're going to get down with the get down. We're going to talk about the boys, and it is a lot of boys, honestly, who are just like hacking shit in their bodies physically. Rodeka was talking about the nootropics and the adaptogens and the designer chemicals, but some people like to get hard with hardware. That's a penis joke. maybe the best one that I've ever told. I really enjoyed that. I was like,
That was a good time.
I was really proud of myself
I'm
halfway.
sitting, it was smooth. You were like, "No, I'm about to put it on these niggas, man. They don't even know."
That's a fact. All right. Well, now we're going to get into the aspect of biohacking for sex that involves physical body modification and implants. Rebecca told you earlier that it's called Grinder, but it's with a E this time. It's not Grinder like the app. According to biohack.me, grinders are passionate individuals who believe that the tools and knowledge of science belong to everyone. Grinders practice functional extreme body modification in an effort to improve the human condition, a term that I'd like to talk about a little bit later. Grinders hack themselves with electronic hardware to extend and improve human capacities and believe in action that their bodies are the experiment. Some non-sexual examples of grinders include, or grinding activities, or people grinding themselves, include implanting magnets and RFID chips under the skin's surface, implanting microchips, compasses, and miniature hard drives, also wireless routers. There are people who use night vision eye drops. There are people who literally perform gene therapy on themselves. One famous case is a man who installed an antenna in his head because he was colorblind and he wanted to use the antenna to feel vibrations associated with color. Yeah, shout out to Harbison. Neil Harbison.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. Is this safe and legal, you might be asking? So safe, I feel like I'm even taking a little bit more of a liberal approach than you took, because you were like, I would not suggest that you do this. I can't and won't suggest that you do this. So like, I nor Inner Hope Uprising is encouraging anyone to do any biohacking body modification on themselves or get biohacking body modification at the hands of others. However, I mean, safe is not really like my call to make.
Yeah.
It's your call to make. So it kind of reminds me, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but I feel like there's a lot of overlap between grinders and kink in the kink community. But like, safe reminds me of like, what is it? What are the two acronyms? There's a safe, sane, and consensual, which people have talked about, like what is sane if you have mental illness and things like that. But then there's RAC, which is risk aware consented kink, I believe. It's like consented.
Okay.
Risk aware consented kink. Yeah, I don't think, but like, what's safe? I'm getting very philosophical right now, but like, is it safe to live in America right now? No, but we still do it. But like,
I think when I said it, I was just doing the typical Black thing, which is like, I mean,
now you didn't hear from me.
I mean, you didn't hear from me, but because I'm talking about it as if I didn't just say that I did.
You did say,
or as if I didn't just say like I bought nootropics and I'm doing different sex. I'm in it, but it's also like I don't want anybody to be like, yo, Rebecca from IHU.
No, we did not.
And that's why I didn't even want to put, like, at one point in time there was like dosages. Nah, it's all different. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? But that was just me going, I mean,
now you didn't hear from me. Well, as someone, okay, so that's, I mean, you're someone who is doing it. I don't have any fucking microchips in my body. And I don't plan on doing that anytime soon, but I don't know, who knows what the future holds. But I think it's just like a broader question of like, what the fuck is safe? And like, if you are, I mean, there are certain things where it's like, I don't think anybody should be fucking experimenting on people without their consent. And I mean, fully, like full consent, like risk aware consent and things like that. But if you want to see something happen in the world and you're not seeing it from science, and you're like, what's stopping you? And why should you be stopped? I don't know. So there's like safe, but like to talk about risk, because there are risks. There's obviously a risk in putting any chemical or piece of technology literally into your body. There's risk of infection. There's risk of how your body may react to the implant or the side effects that might cause, because this is a substance that's foreign to your body. I mean, but that's why there's overlap here between the body modification community, because like your body could reject a fucking piercing, for example. There's like all of these magnets being inserted. One big risk is like, you can never do an MRI if that magnet is magnetized. You would have to get it demagnetized, which we'll talk about a little bit later. In terms of legality, when it comes to biohacker, quote unquote, surgeons, as they're called, so long as they say that they're performing extreme body modification and not surgery, and do not claim to offer health benefits with the body modification, then apparently it's like legal, because you're not saying like, I'm doing surgery.
Which brings us back to like Okay, so if people are doing this on a bathroom floor or in the back of like a tattoo shop, and you just go a little further back, and they're like, nah, it's just a because
It's
you know
like
how there's
in
that
the
one thing.
beginning, it's like I'm getting my ears pierced, then you're getting a
Yep,
fucking sleeve, and then in the back you're getting a microchip in your ass,
exactly. And like if they're all,
all under
being
one roof.
said, then who knows how far it'll go, and that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting. One instance of this. So the FDA was upset at a biohacker named Josiah Zahner, who was selling gene-edited kits to brew glow-in-the-dark beers. I don't know why I want to say coffee. Maybe I just want to
Because
drink
we're talking about
glow-in-the-dark
caffeine.
coffee.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was using kits to brew glow-in-the-dark beers, which was like basically using CRISPR to like change the genomes of the yeast in the
Okay.
beer. That was never deemed illegal, but at one point the FDA was like, wait a second there. Then it was revealed, or maybe he like made it public, I don't remember, I haven't looked back at the story in a couple of years, but he injected himself with CRISPR. So if you heard last week's episode, we talked about CRISPR. Injecting yourself with CRISPR is, or injecting people with CRISPR is actually a thing, and that's like legal, and that isn't the same thing as germline editing, which changes your lineage forever.
Yeah.
Go back to that episode and listen to that if you need to catch up. But he injected himself with CRISPR, and after that, the FDA said you can't sell gene editing kits for use in humans. But he's not selling that; he's selling beer. But you consume the beer.
Yeah, it's going in your
But
body.
we have genetically modified things all the time. So there you go. Yeah, but what he's doing is not illegal. But selling a kit is. So keep that in mind if you were building a CRISPR kit. I don't know. Anyway, a little bit about the grinder vibes, which I want to get into because this is all related. I mean, if people are doing these things, people have sex. So like, who are people doing these things, and are they like us?
Yeah.
So they're very body mod from everything that I've seen. So like, for example, like if you don't know what I mean by body mod, like tons of tattoos, piercings before they were mainstream, but like we're talking like split tongues, horns, elf ears, like that's what I mean by extreme body modification. Like that is very akin to this community, in my opinion. They're very punk. Rebecca talked about biopunk earlier. It's a very like fuck the establishment kind of setup, and they are pretty white and mostly male. I will show an image of one biohacker who I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, just to give you a sense of the vibes. There we go. So like those kind of folk.
I can feel it through the picture.
those kind of folk.
Ah, man. Yes.
Yeah.
They're white.
Yeah,
the white man.
They're very there's a couple of I'm assuming women in there. Also like when you go on Wikipedia, and whatever, Wikipedia is not a trusted source, but it is. That's still community science, nigga. But like somebody has like there's like a list on Wikipedia of like prominent grinders, and it's like pretty much all men, and then like one person is like genderless. So it started to make me think like, what is it about this space, and what is it about biohacking that lends itself to patriarchy? But like, isn't that science in general? But then with like what you were saying before, like, isn't biohacking supposed to be like this do it yourself, we're going against the grain, fuck the establishment, but like in these ways we're being very much like the establishment? So
I think about it, and when you first said it, obviously that's not the right answer. There's no right answer, but like people can only do what they know, and they're just like, all right, this is a system, and yeah, we have these ideals, but I only know how to model another system, so I'm just translating.
And I'm still like a white person who is unaware or unable. So yeah. And then there's like access and who gets to play in these spaces and things like that, which we'll talk about.
Even though it's an emerging science, it's still, if you're still
coming off the heels of science.
Exactly.
And just America. So, but yeah, more on that later. Let's talk about sex now. Here's some biohacking for sex examples. Excuse me. There's a lot less examples than one might think, or maybe not. I don't know. I guess if there's not that many examples of like biohacking in regards to grinders and body modification in general, then there isn't going to be that much in regards to sex. But I stumbled across, which inspired this whole episode, I stumbled across a 2018 article. I stumbled across this in 2018, actually, and wrote it down a long time ago, written in CNET by a writer named Eric Mack, which was just like, oh, here are these biohackers modifying their bodies for sex. So it goes over a couple of examples. First example mentioned in the article is the electromagnetic clitoris implant. So that is a, see that face you're making over there? That is a magnetic implant that you place inside of your clitoris, or somebody else's places inside of your clitoris, that gives pulsing sensations when triggered by the energy of another device, like a fan, music coming from speakers, or even a car being turned on. A 38-year-old woman, she was 36 at the time of the article, named Anita, has a body modification artist husband named Sampa Cyborg, who actually installed or implanted her magnetic clitoral implant. One thing that I think is funny when I talk about all this is like how sometimes I say installed instead of implanted, which is going like full technological side of the cyborgness of it.
Updates being installed.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep doing that, but it just feels, it makes more sense to say I installed a microchip than I implanted a microchip to me.
Yeah.
Anita had to get this demagnetized because she actually needed an MRI, like I was saying before, and didn't want the, as she said, magnet to shoot through her skin.
Oh man.
Which, yeah, then I'm just like,
what happened? Yeah,
that's fucking scary. Oh god. Yeah, my concerns involve infection, MRIs obviously, and then like what opening up your clitoris does to the nerves there.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine that being a pleasurable experience. I can't imagine that being something that wouldn't necessarily affect the sensitivity afterwards, just because it's being sliced open. Sorry, I didn't mean to, like, yeah, I'm so sorry. It's being installed.
It's like a paper clip. Jesus.
Yeah.
So Sampa, the husband or boyfriend, I don't remember, has been I could just scroll up. Let me just
boyfriend or husband or whatever.
I'm just like, fuck monogamy. Anyway, Sampa has been toying with the idea of a vibrating implant. So not an electromagnetic, oh yeah, we're just riding the wave, like an actual thing in your clitoris that vibrates. That would be giving sensations directly as opposed to the electromagnetic sensations. However, at this time, he's uncertain as to how it would work in regards to issues like underpowered or unreliable batteries. How do you charge it?
Which makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. A few years ago, there was an April Fool's story about a similar product called the Orgasmia by a company called Fun Factory. And it like looked like a little clitoris going inside your actual clitoris. And they were like, oh yeah, it vibrates. And like people reported on it. And then it was like, no, this is not a real thing. So if you ever saw that, that's not a real thing. He also says, Sampa, that he one day wants to make these vibrating clitoral implants have an alert when your lover is close by, which I didn't understand the point of that. Like if you have, and there are some people who don't, and I'm not being ableist, if you do not have any five senses, sure, but then you can't feel it. Never mind. What's the point of this? Let me actually work through that. What's the point of this? I don't get what the point of that would be. I don't get, other than do it just to do it, which like I'm also for doing it just to do it, but I don't understand the practicality or value in something like that.
I agree. I'm looking at it because I'm just like, other than just like, hey, I have this thing, I can do this thing. I don't see it. I don't want that.
Like it just vibrates I can already when they see this
person. Yeah. Okay. Which is like maybe kink. Maybe that's like
I can feel that when like, they come in. Sure. Yeah. Okay. I thought it was like literally like the point was alert, because that's what the word
like to let me know.
Yeah. Like I don't need to know. I don't need to know. But if it's just like a thing that happens, like, oh yeah, that's kind of sexy. Okay, sure. I don't think alert is the word, but I'll give you that. And the capability to record data like body temperature and blood pressure, which can quote unquote, he says, help with your next move. That kind of reminds me of what I was feeling in regards to the what is it, nootropics?
Yeah.
That allow you to quote unquote perform better.
Yes.
And once again, it feels very top centric.
Yes.
Because I don't know what someone who, like, what do you do with that data? Like, I'm assuming it's like, oh, this data, like, oh, then I saw like how this person reacted to this. So now I know
when you
what
said it,
moves to you.
got it. It's like, oh, okay, I touched this one spot and they liked it, so now I know to continue.
Right.
Which is like, talk, maybe have a
Conversation.
Fine. Yeah, okay. I I don't know if I like that. I get it, and I think I actually said something very similar when we were talking about, what were we talking about? This is a couple of episodes, but we had talked about like wanting to have the foresight or like a power or something. And I said, if it was in the sexual aspect, I would want to be able to read people's thoughts so I know what feels good. I know we were talking about that. It's kind of like that. It's like, oh, like, I know you like this, even if you're not saying, like, I can see the kink, I can see the aspects of it. But again, you can also see the weird, or like, what? Just ask me if I like it, or, you know.
Yeah. This reminds me, I was looking at my phone earlier because I was trying to look up the name of this episode. There's a podcast called Advice from the Future. Yes, for and from the future. That's what I was like, for or from. It's both. Advice for and from the future. It's hosted by a futurist writer named Rose Eveleth, who also has a podcast called Flash Forward. I love both of these podcasts.
Nice.
And on a recent episode, it was should I let my company put a chip in my hand, which is like, should you trust your boss, and what are the implications of doing these like bio implants and things like that. And then at one point, the person who she interviewed on it, I think, was talking about sex and the value of reading data during sex. And it's like, sure, like, then what's interpreting that data, and what is the interpretation of that data? And sure, if you're going it from like an algorithmic perspective, you can be like, oh yeah, when the heart rate is beating faster and the breath is doing all of this, which I'm not sure how a clitoral implant could read all of that, but sure. That means I was doing better. But it could be associated with that, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're doing better. The person could just,
it could also mean that, I was just going to say, the
could be
person could be uncomfortable, could be scared,
yeah,
could be thinking about something
you
else
could be
that has
having
nothing
an
to do with
asthma attack.
This person could have an underlying health issue that just like happens. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean, man, I'm hitting the spot because what? Yeah,
exactly. So I think like a lot of us are, and I'm not saying that there's no value in these kinds of things, but like, I'm imagining like Tony Stark's like screen in front of him in the Iron Man suit, where he has like all of these like biometric things that he's able to read. Or like, what was I playing the other day? I started playing Arkham Asylum, the first one. Yes, I'm late, whatever. But like, Batman is like looking and seeing like, oh, these enemies are like confused and they're scared and things like that.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like we all grew up on stuff like that, and we want to be able to like lines, or some people want to be able to blur the lines. But I think that sometimes humanity has more value than computers do, and sometimes I think computers have more value than sometimes computers have more value than or sometimes computers can execute things better than humans. And I think there's time for us to consider.
There's a lot of misconceptions, or rather, like, in some communities it's very much like technology trumps everything, and we need to move away from that. There is a certain, not finesse, but there's a certain just beauty in the human touch, or the human aspect, or interpreting things that aren't data, but like, you know, feelings matter, conversations matter, as opposed to like,
especially when I know this person,
this person's fucking having a great time because their heart rate went up. I'm fat, so no matter what happens. So I don't know, like, we need to have a conversation. It's different than just looking at numbers. It's not exactly ones and twos. That's that, ones and twos, ones and zeros. What the fuck is ones and twos?
That's white people being able to dance.
Okay, there you go. Oh, damn.
Anyway. But yeah, no, for sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
So aside from that question, some concerns, besides infection, once again, would this cause nerve damage? Not only the slicing, as Rebecca puts it, but like actually having something vibrating in there. I know people are like, oh, your vibrator is going to make your clit go like numb or whatever forever, which is like not been proven. But when it's actually in there, maybe. What about that? I don't know. Would this feel better or provide any benefit over like a standard vibrator?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sold on the value of that. I like my vibrator being able to like move up and down against
Yeah. As opposed to
not just
just it
like
being in there.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, what's the price, you know? Like these are things
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah,
like to
that's valid.
know. Let's move on to the curious case of Rich Lee. It's not really a curious case. I just wanted to say that. It is interesting though. So Rich Lee is a grinder. He's a biohacker. Some non-sexual things that he's done in regards to biohacking. He has magnets in his ears that work as earbuds. He has tubes of armor under his skin, the skin of his leg, to act as a built-in shin guard, which I thought was interesting. And he's also the inventor of the Lovetron 9000, the name. It's a vibrator implanted at the base of the penis, and
Wow.
the purpose is to like vibrate there.
Like a cock ring, like a vibrating cock ring. Yeah.
Exactly. It's undergone 8 different prototypes and has yet to go under someone's skin. One of the first prototypes was made of glass tubes. I'll show that later. He said that was not a good idea, and I agree with that because what? Prototype number 8, he was going to. Oh no. Prototype number 7, he was going to get implanted in himself, and then as he was running through the cycles, it actually broke. So now he's working with a sex toy company for the latest prototype, but the sex toy company is not named, but I'm extremely curious as to who that is. I think it might be good for clitoral stimulation and is good in place of the cock ring. Once again, I do question, is that
price.
More beneficial? I do question price. I also question, is that more beneficial than a cock ring? Sometimes they slip. I don't know.
Yeah. I think everything is supposed to be like an easier, but may actually end up being more cumbersome. That's just the reality of it.
Right. Let me show some pictures.
Oh man, I just keep thinking about like this whole ring under the skin and like the form and how it'll change the way the skin looks, and
yeah, the bump will be there.
And just like permanence, peeing. There's so many things. I get it. You gotta experiment, sure.
So here's our first. That's not a real picture. But that's like what one of these websites that reported on it used. And I thought that was so funny that I had to share that. Like, what intern made that? That's so funny. That is so funny. If you're not on YouTube, I wish you could see that.
I'm so proud of them for that. They were like, nah, this has to go in there. Oh my gosh.
All right, here's some actual pictures now. I just had to share that. Oh man. Okay, here's the first prototype. I think this is the glass tubes one.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's plastic tubes.
That's not what I was picturing. I think because I was thinking of a cock ring, I was thinking about a circle around the penis.
Oh.
Like
I
it just being like a Saturn. Yeah, that's what
that
I was
seems
like. That's
like a complicated install, though. I keep saying install.
Oh,
I think human beings are cyborgs.
It's a complicated update to the penis program. It's interesting.
Not a fucking human, bro. Oh man, yeah. So
that would be.
And then here's the latest one. And I saw the latest one ever before I saw that one. So when I saw that one, I was like, wait, what? I did not expect it to look like that. This one is kind of funny to me because looks like a bar soap.
It's a little hotel soap that you put in your penis. Oh wow.
But I think in terms of design, like I fuck with that vision the hardest.
Yeah. And the ridges. Because I think of like ridged condoms, and those were a good time when I was experimenting with condoms that I liked. Those are like my top 3. So I think that might be good.
What are the other 2? What, are you a condom connoisseur?
I'm a condom. No. So a funny thing is, when I was in college, I bought a variety pack of the best condoms on this website.
As we all did, yeah.
And we did, right? Okay, good. I didn't know that
you got it in Walgreens like me.
Nah. Hell no. I just got I've gotten it in Walgreens. I didn't mean hell no. Why the fuck did I say it like that? No, I'm so sorry. But I did go. I did order it, and ridges are good. I liked not the icy hot feeling one, the fire and ice one. I hated those. Those were so bad. I didn't understand what was going on.
It's very uncomfortable. Oh, let me stop sharing the screen.
Just like staring in our face, right? Also, I do like non-latex condoms. I know they don't protect against STIs, but they do feel good. and that was one of my top ones. And what was the other one? I can't remember anymore. No, it was just the heating one. Like it made it warmer,
I
not
remember those.
icing, just a warmer one. Those
Yeah.
were good too. I think the only other option is regular, so I didn't really do anything, guys.
An old fashioned.
Old fashions is a bottom choice for me. I like a little spice with my condoms.
Those are the pictures of the Lovetron 9000. A little bit of trivia about Rich Lee, and it's sad to call it trivia because this is real life, but he actually lost custody of his children because his co-parent made the claim that the kids seeing their dad modify or mutilate, so he would say modify, she would say mutilate, his body, I think both might fit, in these ways was harmful for the kids to see. So
that ties into something, well, you're going to discuss it later, but I'm also going to discuss something about prejudice and new like ways that people are just like, I don't fuck with this and I don't want anybody around like this. So that's interesting.
Right. Yeah. So that is interesting. Then we have the NASF, or the neurally augmented sexual function. This one is not a tangible thing. Like you can't hold it like the Lovetron or implant it like the clitoris electromagnetic thing. It's a patented device. So it's just a picture, and I'll show the picture. Invented by anesthesiologist Stuart Malloy. It's a spinal cord stimulator, and a remote control triggers a zap from electrodes placed along the spine that can trigger an instant orgasm. Sometimes, albeit unfortunately, it is called the Orgasmatron. I do not know why we keep doing Tron. I know that that's ironic because I have a Tron background right now, but we don't have to keep doing that, in my opinion.
We don't. We let it go.
Hey, it's a good series of films, but whatever, man. The prices are at, if it ever were to be produced, $30,000, and because of that, investors are not interested. And once again, I'm not sold on why this needs to exist. And once again, like, well, maybe we can get into that a little bit later, but okay, I feel like why would you pay $30K when you can just touch your clit? But now that I'm thinking about it,
some people can't achieve orgasm even that way.
Well, true. That's true. That's a really good point. I'm glad that you said that. That's a good point. I'm just thinking about like ability, like maybe if you are like quadriplegic, for example. And I know that sometimes people have like they pay like sex workers or even caretakers to like stimulate them.
Yes, I've seen that.
Orgasm.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't even want to have that, like, because like masturbation is a private kind of thing, man.
Yeah.
Maybe if you don't want that, maybe it is just a matter of like, oh, let me push this button. So you know what? What's his name? Stuart Malloy. I'm sorry, man.
You're onto something. You might be onto something, man.
Sorry, Stuart Malloy, and I'm sorry for being like ableist in my lens of thinking about that. Because last night I was just like, who the fuck needs this? But yeah, I take.
And then as you said it out loud, your brain was like, man, I got you on that one. It always happens, which is good.
You got me there.
Checking, but your brain is always like, man,
you got to do better.
Wrong lens.
Yeah. So now I'm sad that it's 30K because it's like it would be cool if someone could experience that. Exactly. So Grindr for sex thoughts in general. I was just thinking like, where's the creativity? I felt like a lot of it was very like, I don't know, because like I didn't think of anything on my own, you know. So like, am I being creative? But I just thought about this last night. But I felt like I wasn't seeing niches or problems that it was like specifically addressing. And with biohacking being this thing where it's like, oh, we're trying to improve on the human condition, I didn't see much improvements or things
as in like things that we could already do.
Exactly.
Why we even I got
exactly. But now that I'm thinking about the spinal cord thing, I'm like, yeah, okay, I can feel that. The cock ring thing, cock rings exist, but I guess the ease of it. So okay, I'm more forgiving having slept on it. Sometimes you just need to sleep. I do like the dick implant thing because I feel like it addresses kind of like, it doesn't address it in the way that I would like for it to be addressed, but like the orgasm gap between like women and I guess cisgender women specifically, where it's like, because their cisgender partners don't want to, or whoever partners don't want to stimulate their clitorises. That's why, and I think it's most people with clitorises. are, what is it, like a 60-40 kind of thing or an 80-20 kind
Yeah.
of thing, where it's
It's like an
you
80-20.
you achieve orgasm through clitoral stimulation as opposed to vaginal penetration. So I would like for the world to be like, oh, if you have a partner with a clitoris, and honestly I'm talking about men because I know that lesbians touch their girlfriend's clits, I would like for it to be, for people to like be like having that be top of mind and centering like women's pleasure in that way.
Yeah.
And this is like a technological, just like,
Shortcut.
exactly
Because if
that
they're not
eliminates
thinking
the
about it,
that eliminates the care and the like, yeah.
Because they're not thinking about it and they're not caring about it. At least there's something that'll just do it for me.
Let me just turn it on. Which, yeah, that's interesting. So I mean, and that harks back to the interlocking genitals conversation and the CRISPR's conversation and all these conversations of like these scientific shortcuts to societal issues that exist.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to see a little bit more creativity though. I'm like a fucking Shark Tank judge or something like that. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about kink. So there's overlap between the body mod and the kink communities. So I can definitely see how this version of body modification in terms of biohacking is overlapping with the kink communities. And like it's kind of like I could feel it, like especially like with Rich Lee, I was getting some like Dom vibes from him.
Yep.
So I can feel it in the air, but I haven't seen any examples of what that really looks like or what that can be. Even with the husband and that installed the fucking electromagnetic thing in her clit, that seems very kinky to me.
The
Like
fact that it
the
was her
fact that he
husband who did it.
yeah, I mean the fact that he did it, he's like opening up your clit, like that's like, we've talked about that, but like body open, like I'm not rack risk aware consent, but like that's a thing. Opening people is a thing.
It's a thing.
Like the concept of not being able to control when you feel pleasure or stimulation, that seems very like 24/7 slave to me. So it's just in the air, like I can feel it, but they're like not saying like this is how we
These
how we
articles
use
are
kink.
trying to keep it like surface level. It's like, come on, man, we're
Exactly.
already here.
I feel it.
We're already talking about cutting open clitorises. You might as well just say.
Exactly. So yeah, then I was starting to think of like what are other things that it can be used for. So I thought of like the shin thing that Rich Lee has. Like that can be used for impact play. Like if you put like a plate in your hand and your hand is just like a little bit more. Yeah.
That's dope.
I don't know.
Okay.
And then also the internal vibrator thing is very like, come on, that's right there. So
yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I did want to talk a little bit about, before I let you get back into deeper thoughts and implications of this all, get into not grinding, but yeah, not grinding. I was going to think about grinding, but then I didn't. Specifically DIY biology and citizen science. So if you do any of these things in regards to like sexual research, please hit us up because that's something I'm very curious about. But I would like to see that. Like I would like to see the nootropics continue. I would like to see the implanting thing continue, just because I'm curious about where it would go. But I do really want to like see people take scientific topics that need sexual topics that need scientific research into their own hands, that are being ignored by institutions. So one thing that I always think about a lot is the fact that the HPV vaccine that we have is less effective in HPV strains that show up in Black women. Like I would just like to know why that is, or maybe how we can work towards a vaccine that does address those strains. And I'm sure that that's probably not occurring because of structural racism, but if there's any like immunologists or virologists out there who like have some free time, because I don't think that should be straight up like I'm an amateur, but like who want to conduct something and can like dole that out to amateurs. Like there's a lot of like citizen science websites. I used to do that at the beginning of the pandemic, where it's like, oh, here's the research we need, here's how you can help do it, oh, look at this and tell us like when you see these values over and over again, you record the value. So I would love to see a citizen science project about the HPV vaccine. I would also love to see a citizen science project about fibroids, because those largely affect Black women and are understudied. And I wonder why. Probably structural racism. So if you're a scientist and doing any type of like citizen science or science outside of institutions that's specifically about sexuality and like from our lens of sexuality, like Black, queer, femmes, non-binary, trans people, let us know, man. That's very
That's
interesting
dope.
to me.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I would love to see that. But let's talk about some deeper thoughts and implications.
Yes. So you've heard us talk about biohacking, specifically from the lens of people doing it themselves and just like having this access to different nootropics or different chemicals and kind of taking things into their own hands. But there's definitely like a commercial side of biohacking that's emerging, that is kind of not conglomerate, is dominated by white cis men, which we talked about for a little bit, but they have access to the resources, the time, the money. They're being backed by these huge funds. They're just like, let me give you all this money, do whatever you want to do. Companies like Soylent, which is
Soylent is
what we talked
actually
about.
a company. I thought it was just a thing.
Yes, so Soylent is a company, and it's just like the first of these meals that are just juices that you drink. But there's Soylent, there's Huel, there's Manna. They're all in the same vein, and it's like just a complete nutritional meal, 400 calories. Drink it up, because they just think, and Soylent specifically, I think is the most, not controversial, but they're definitely like, we put GMOs in our stuff because that's what the future is going to be. You're not going to get these pure organic things in the future, so you might as well get used to it now, which is like kind of true, given the fact that we're kind of destroying the planet soon enough. These fresh things that we take advantage of are going to be gone, and you have to start living off of these genetically modified foods in order to survive. So they have omega-3s, they have all these vitamins, and it's a whole meal. I've actually started to research probably getting into that, because it's also meant to be affordable, but at the end of the day, it's still a huge white company, and it's not like, they're sharing that wealth in any type of way. Bulletproof, which, not pause, do you want to talk about Dave Asprey, because that's his brand?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk about it? Because I didn't read the.
Yeah. Okay. So you're about to talk about Bulletproof. I don't have much on this, but it was just like red flags immediately. So
yeah,
when I was researching this episode, I was just like, yeah, biohacking and sex. Duh, I'm going to type that into Google. So he comes up immediately. Like, I think he has a podcast, he has a website. So it's just like Dave Asprey, Dave Asprey, Dave Asprey. I'm like, we got to like talk about who the hell that is, because people are going to see that. So he's a white man, which started just like, there's a lot of implications there. He has this, so then he comes up and like next to his name is like the father of biohacking, which I think is very important to say, because if you're claiming that and we're talking about an episode about biohacking, we got to talk about who you are.
Yeah.
So he just gives me red flags. Here's a little bit about him. I'm just going to read it because I just thought that it was all very interesting. He has said that he expects to live to age 180. As of 2019, he has spent at least $1 million hacking his own biology, including having his own stem cells injected into him, taking 100 daily supplements, following a strict diet, bathing in infrared light, using hyperbaric oxygen chamber, wearing special lenses when flying or using a computer. He met his wife, who was a doctor, at an anti-aging conference. And he also claims to have helped his wife with her infertility. So right there, the fact that he spent at least $1 million and can even say something like at least $1 million speaks largely to this access thing that we're talking about here. Another thing that concerns me when it comes to him is that critics have described the bulletproof diet as unscientific, and that he himself has no medical degree or nutritional training. So it's like he's doing all of these things and he's like putting out these claims into the ethos that people are literally buying into, and they don't have backing from him, because it seems like he's not doing studies, he's just making claims, and they don't have backing from his training, because he's not trained in these areas. So like, I'm for citizen science, where it's like, okay, if you're doing science and you're doing the proper scientific method and you yield results, then those results are valid whether or not you went to a school to do it. But you can't not go to a school and not be doing your own citizen science and be making claims. The last thing about
profiting
him,
off of
and
it.
Profiting, yes, exactly. That's a huge thing, and like selling these things to people. He also injects stem cells into his own dick, which I thought was, I had to say that. And he says
He's
like
also
he says it'll help with erectile dysfunction, but he doesn't have erectile dysfunction and never did. So it's like I can see why you're like, oh, I never got it, but like,
so I've been avoiding it because I'm doing this, man. Too bad you guys don't have stem cells in your house, because I promise you that's the thing. But yeah, Bulletproof, if he has a brand, but this is something that you might have actually heard of if you heard about the keto diet. Bulletproof is the type of coffee where they put butter and MCTs,
oh, that's
medium
him.
chain triglycerides. Yes, that is him, in your coffee, and it's supposed to give you like this huge boost in the morning and just up your brain power, all that stuff. And that is Bulletproof Coffee that has become a brand. So Bulletproof in general sells nootropics, they sell all of this stuff, and it's again it's been in your face this whole time, and that's what he's selling. But hearing that he has no medical training is just like Jesus Christ.
It's also in like what you just said, like it's been in your face this whole time, like what you were talking about earlier with like he's having roots in like traditional Chinese medicine,
Yep.
and then whichever one you said was in the Kama Sutra, that'd be traditional Indian medicine.
Yeah.
So now it's like white people taking up these things that exist and probably for cheap, or maybe that you can even grow yourself.
Exactly.
And then selling it back to you for like tenfold.
And that's exactly what it is. Bulletproof Moon Juice is another one, which is just like these white women. It's a white woman who founded it, who's just very like, I'm Zen, and all of these things that are clearly founded in Chinese. Yeah, exactly. And she's just like, man, it came to me one day, basically. And Oni, yes, which is also another one that sells nootropic stacks. They're selling these things and the adaptogens for big prices. I think Bulletproof, which is literally butter, MCTs, and coffee, is being sold packaged probably for around $30. We all know you can just go to the store and get some butter and some coffee, and MCTs are not expensive. You can get a whole like half gallon of it for $10, but it's being, yeah, exactly. So that's why you have to look at both sides of it, because we're very pro DIY, do it yourself, but we can't ignore the fact that there are companies, very white companies, that are just taking these things that have been there and upping the price, as opposed to just saying, or even giving credit to where it came from.
Yeah.
So biohacking is also heavily tied with healthcare and medicine. So the same limitations and issues that affect disabled or people of color or trans or poor people within the healthcare system will also apply to biohacking. As it becomes more of a new norm, there's definitely going to be adopted within the healthcare system. Different things like holistic medicine is starting to become a big thing, and that's where access still comes into play. If we're not fixing these things at the core for things that are necessary to be helped with. So like, for example, if you start modifying your body not to heal or to fix or assist with a disability or something going on, but in order to enhance your body because you want to, there won't be any health insurance that's going to cover that. So people who may otherwise be healthy but want to, run faster, they're not, but one person can do that at the click of a button, or one implant, and they're running faster. Now you have to work twice as hard, and your health insurance is like, well, that's purely cosmetic. That's not something that you really need. So there are biohackers and biohacking conferences that specifically are working to make healthcare more affordable and accessible to all. Are specifically working to make biohacking more affordable and accessible to all, teaching people how to make their own insulin or making their own hormones. Of course, it's radical, but it's dangerous. It's unregulated, and it's just peer review and people saying this worked for me, so you should try it. And it's often done outside of labs. But there was one that I really wanted to shout out, because a lot of them, and it was an article where they referenced how the conferences are very white and male heavy, and they're talking about all of these things, like, we want to make the world better, we want to have access to all this stuff, but, and it was a good line, because it was like, but the building isn't even wheelchair accessible. So you already know that they're like, exact. And I was like, okay, you don't even know what you're
and you
about.
had all of these resources to put on a conference. Okay, like that's another part of it. Like, when you're like, from like, for example, this podcast is not fully accessible. We do not have subtitles for it, not subtitles, a transcript for it. That's because fucking transcripting is really expensive and we don't have money to do that. But you guys had money to put on a whole fucking conference and like jerk off yourselves about how you want to make the world a better place, and you didn't even think of that. Like, what the fuck? Where was the money going, son? Where was the money going? Give me some of the money. God.
So there's some emerging like conferences that specifically work to address this. So there was one that I thought was really dope. It's called Please Try This at Home. Their tagline is be gay, do crimes against nature. And I'm just like, yes, let's do this. But it's the reason why it's able to get funded. It's 100% free, but it's collaboratory. It's collaborative with a whole bunch of people who want this to happen. So they all put the money in. It's crowdfunded, and they're all both biohackers, but also avid supporters of it. So they're pulling their money together as opposed to being funded by an outside source. And everything is just about, they're the ones who actually are talking about creating your own insulin, because that's diabetes is rampant in a lot of communities. So it's just like stuff like that, your hormones. And yeah, I thought it was dope.
I like that. That's really
and
cool.
so I'd rather go to that. I'd rather see something like that than anything that any white man is going to tell me. So then there's talk about disability. So some of the most cutting edge technologies are costly. For example, while prosthetics are far from perfect nowadays, they are making significant strides in their advancement. However, the better they perform, the more they cost. There's one bionic hand right now that's called iLimb that costs $100,000. Yeah, who can afford $100,000? And that's when the gaps start coming in. Even though health insurance often pays for prosthesis, they don't usually cover the top of the line technology. So I'm reading things about like now they're starting to figure out how to mimic the feeling of touch or pressure, but that is going to be way on the other end of costs and ability to access that. You're going to end up with a more basic form as opposed to like 150,000 one that might be as good as a human hand, but you'll never see it. The average person will never see it. Is the concept of making your body, this is my question, is the concept of making your body better or improving, that was your question actually.
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So biohacking is like rooted in this, we're improving the human condition. And I'm just wondering if that's ableist or not. Like in the same way that when we talk about CRISPR and people like want to edit out certain conditions that people have, and the people who have those conditions are like, I exist and I don't want that to be edited out. Like, for example, folks with autism. So it's like is the world inherently inaccessible, or do we make a world that's inaccessible, right? So like,
yeah,
are you quote unquote better for having 2 working legs, or is everything built for people with 2 working legs instead of somebody who's in a wheelchair?
And that's
who's to say question. What's better?
It's always going to be the majority, and that's what the problem is. And that's where things like
the people in power.
The people in power, you're actually right, because majority, who's listening, right?
Yeah.
The people in power are like, it's demand. Obviously, capitalism is just about whatever's going to make the most money. So if a whole lot of people are buying this stuff and they're buying into it, that's when it becomes a new normal. But it's also worrying because of the fact that if so many people, or if a lot of people can suddenly afford to put a chip in their hand, right? And this is something that I don't even want, but now so many people are doing it, it becomes something that if you don't have, you're now being ostracized, or you're now being like, oh, you don't have a chip in your hand, you got to open the door like a regular person. Now what's considered better? What's considered normal? What is anything anymore? You know what I mean? Once we start moving towards this technology and human marriage moving forward. Another thing talking about access or just talking about marginalized communities. For trans people, accessing healthcare, as we know, is more difficult within our systems that subject trans people to gatekeeping and discrimination constantly. Large communities within the biohacker space identify as trans or non-binary, which is great, and they want to take back access and medical care that has been taken away from them from the comfort of their own space or home. I've actually seen a lot of articles that were like how transhumanism is inherently about moving towards a genderless society, or just kind of like no longer identifying as genders or stuff like that, just like very tied together, which I thought was dope. And there's an artist who's based in Baltimore, who's primarily an artist and then suddenly became interested in biology, so is now a tactical biologist. His name is Ryan Hammond. He wants to make the process easier for using genetically modified plants. He plans to engineer transgenic tobacco plants to produce hormones like estrogen and testosterone, allowing anyone to grow their own supplements at home, which, like we were talking about with HPV, and like I've also seen people trying to cure HIV at home, or trying to find a herpes cure. A lot of things that people are trying to take back, ailments that they otherwise would not get help for or discrimination for, and just trying to not fix, but like cure these things themselves and talk to each other and make it happen. And he used tobacco plants because there's so much research on tobacco plants, and because of the fact that there's a whole industry behind that, and he's trying to make that and use that research and something that's abundant in supply and use it towards trans people or hormone therapy.
That's that
yeah
good
that's
fucking
what I
shit
like.
that I like. Wow, I stand that.
Yeah,
That's
it's really
amazing.
just flipping, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think you were saying this before. It's flipping the communities or the things that these companies don't want to focus on because there's no money in it, or there's no like power, or it's just them being racist or assholes about it, and taking, all right, well, you don't want to look at this, but I know you know tobacco plants inside and fucking out. So let me use that research to bring it over to something that would otherwise be ignored.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I could easily see, and I'm talking about this because we like vaguely touched on this on an episode of In Those Genes that I produced. Well, I just produced the show, but where it was like Janina was like thinking futuristically about a world where folks eventually use data that they've gotten from people who have engaged with these direct-to-consumer genetic companies and use that for like studying cures or what to do to treat ailments that particularly affect Black people. So it's like, yeah, these companies like got a grip off of us for a second because they were trying to like spell this whole like, oh yeah, you need to be in touch with your pest or whatever, blah blah blah, and they can't fucking even tell you that, spoiler alert, but listen to the podcast still. But like, so just like flipping the fact that they have all of this data now, let's like also try to trove into the data that they collected on us and that we gave them to like influence better outcomes for us, you know. It's just like working with what you got, which I really like that.
I like that too, for sure. And I guess now it's just like thoughts. We were talking about, I wrote a little bit, but I said a lot of it. It's just, is this the future we want? Is this the trajectory of the inevitable? Is this something that sounds good to you, sounds good to me? I don't know. And you said this, I want a future that everyone has access to any and all enhancements or what have it's, or changes that they desire for themselves. I believe in agency of your own body. I believe in, I want to do this. I'm not hurting anyone. That's a big thing. I don't believe in, you should try this on me. No, it's me. If this is something that I want for myself, having access is very important, but that also feels naive, obviously, because that should be something that's happening now, not necessarily just in a biohacking future, and it's not. I'm not blind to the drawbacks of having everyone have access to a whole bunch of chemicals or have access to a whole bunch of chips, and how easily humans doing what humans do, it could go left. It could be now, you know, I'm creating chemicals and telling you it's this, and it's, I don't know, something that's going to explode your gut out. I don't know. I'm not saying that it should be that, but
slicing your clitoris.
Yes, you know, and that could be that, but maybe that's not what I wanted. Maybe I just wanted something else, and now I have an exploding clitoris. I don't know what I want. But I was I was personally able to hop online and buy some nootropics at a relatively cheap price, as opposed to going through Moon Juice, which I had initially, like, that's one of the websites that I initially wanted to get adaptogens from and kind of get these combinations that they're selling me that will tell me will calm down and reduce my anxiety, et cetera, et cetera. And I was able to get it at like less than half the price because I'm doing the work and and that's what I want. I don't want a company to sell me something at $50 when I can now have the same effects, and I chose to do this, and I can even take off things that I don't even want for $15. That's what I want for everybody. But that requires a lot of research, that requires a lot of education, that requires not time. And not everybody has it. I had that because of COVID, but otherwise I'm going to buy what's already pre-made because that's just what's easier. I just wish. Exactly. And I said this before, but I'm also a little worried about a new prejudice. Anything that's new or not immediately opens itself up to being understood can lead itself to a new prejudice. While this seems like the new inevitable future, what does that mean for people who are not participating in this, who just want to live a life that has nothing to do with technology, but they're no longer the majority? They're people who are now have to be isolated. I don't know how humans are going to react to that because people are elitist. People who have access to things will always try and shit on people who don't. It's no longer going to be, oh, you don't have the new sneakers on the block. It's going to be like, oh, you got the version 2 chips in your hand. I'm on version 10.
Or
Fuck
even
you.
like not even like the fucking like middle school, oh, you don't got Jordans or whatever, but even just like, yo, I don't have a car, which I didn't for a very long time, and it takes me this long to get to work, and I have to live in this neighborhood because I don't have that much money, and you live in that neighborhood, or you have a car and you get to work way faster than me, and I'm coming to work tired, having rode the train for 2 hours, and you're coming to work spry for fucking riding the train for 15 minutes, and you're getting a fucking promotion and I'm not. I'm
That's
talking
real.
about my real life in real life.
You're like, yeah,
I'm just
damn it.
This is why I'm a freelancer now. But like, yeah, so like, is there accessibility that comes with, or like extra accessibility that comes with these things?
Yeah.
And I think that people who are in this space right now don't think about that because they view themselves as marginalized individuals, which to some extent I'm sure they are. Like richly, I think, like you had something early in the document that compared these people to Silicon Valley, and I was like, I don't agree with that, and I don't agree with that because people in this community are putting themselves in opposition to Silicon Valley because they don't have the same type of wealth that you find in Silicon Valley, but that doesn't mean that they don't have privileges. So like you can be both marginalized for being in whatever space in America and for whatever other reasons that you're marginalized, but you're also not in tune to other kinds of marginalized people.
Yeah.
And as we know, being Black people and setting the culture for America over and over and over again, things from the margin come to the center. So like right now, these people who are on the cusp of biohacking and like feel like they're renegades and biopunk and all that kind of stuff are at the margins. But I think like maybe not all of these technologies, but I'm sure a lot of these technologies are going to come to the center. And you can see that with things like Moon Juice. Looks like fucking, reminds me of Goop or whatever.
You looked at it, right?
Yeah, it's very...
Goop endorses them. Yeah.
I'm not surprised. So
exactly.
It's very like aesthetic or what. So like that's something from the margins coming to the center. I would not be surprised if some of the things that people are operating and implanting in themselves now, or installing, as I like saying themselves now, will come to the center. And as it comes, all of these people who are at the cusp of it are not thinking about other kinds of marginalized communities that they need to be thinking about. And when it comes to the center, it's going to forget about everybody else again.
Oh, that's real.
So yeah. I did also think it was interesting that he lost his children, and I don't know what the implications of that are, but it's just curious to me. Like, I could see if he was like literally opening himself up in front of his kids, because then it's like,
traumatizing.
Are they traumatizing? Are they going to try to do it? I don't, or is it just like they know that he has it? I don't know. That's definitely a case that sets a precedent, and I don't know if I agree with the precedent that it's setting.
Yeah.
Like if it's just existing
and I'm not hurting anybody.
Yeah, I don't know.
Of my own children. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I
That's
don't
a
know.
lot. Yeah. But that's biohacking, guys.
Biohacking for sex. That was our segment, guys.
Yeah.
Me and Sam got passionate. Like, man,
This has been rolling for almost 2 hours.
I know, son.
And it
I
has
was like,
not
wait a
been
minute.
that long for a long time. I don't know how the fuck
Did
this
it?
is that long.
I don't either. I looked up and I was like, holy shit, that's a runtime, if I do say so
It's
myself.
quite a runtime.
Do you
Well,
want to do the fan fiction or do you want to skip it? Because
should
mine was
we?
just like, so
Maybe
I
just
just
for
did
like
out.
2 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up, not going into a full segment, but just like, what does our biohacking for sex look like in the future? I only have like 3 things, so I'm curious about your whole story here.
Well, there's a story, all right, guys. I'm gonna do it quick, all right. I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, like, what would I want? Like, what would be cool?
Yeah.
There's a game. I'm gonna quickly talk about it. Cyberpunk 2077. It's
Very
the
excited
best.
for it.
I'm so excited. I got Sam on board. That's what I
You
wanted.
did.
Anyone who I get to talk about this game with, I want them to play it. It's very much in tune with this biohacking future that it seems like an inevitability. There's the range of like hackers, that's what they're called, I think, where like you can go in this underground facility and they'll just hack you up and change you and put chips in. And there's also like the super polished ones at corporate America. So there's definitely the range. It's supposed to be like that. It's dope as hell. That's where I imagine it going. And I know it's always a dystopian future, but this one's kind of like middle ground gray. It's just like, this is just the way it is. It doesn't have to be good or bad. Okay. So that's why I think about it like a cityscape, kind of like the background here, you know, if you can see on YouTube. So for me, I was like, man, like, what would I want to improve? Like, what would I want to happen? I was like, first of all, iron knees is it. Iron, self-lubricating, liquid knees that move, and having like an extreme flexibility, almost contortionist, like anywhere that I want to go, I'm doing it. And 4 arms. I know that, look, this is to the point where everyone has it and we're all doing something. I want some extra arms, right? I thought that would be cool. But also on the chemical aspect, I thought to myself, like, if I had a pump or some, like an asthma pump, but not for asthma, with a rotating dial that I can administer any type of nootropic or herbal tonic stack based off the type of mood I'm trying to be with. So it's like when I'm trying to smash this sex robot that I'm eyeing at the bar, okay, because they're gonna be walking around like mixed with society, sexy. Like, hey, what's up? I would just pull out my pump, set it to schmooze, and, you know, put the moves on her. Suddenly, I've got the confidence of a mediocre cis white man, but with consent, and I'm actually a good person. Not to say that they're all, yeah, I'm not going to disclaim that if they're all bad people, they're all bad people. Anyway, and we go on from there, you know? And that's why I just thought to myself, if there was a way to, like, kind of just change it and be fluid and be very, like, dancey, and, you know, I'm trying to aim at this person, maybe they like the arts, so all of a sudden I'm learning about the arts from my pump and stuff like that. I just thought it would be cool. So that would be like a wealth of information, or just like a mood, or, you know, being aggressive if that person's like a sub, or yeah, like stuff like that. So
it's you're putting the nootropics on yourself.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I think that's an important distinction to make, because I could also feel like this could tip into, it reminds me of like that fucking not horny goat weed. God,
which is a nootropic.
Thank you for that.
I've just so many things that I just know. Like, I'm just like, yeah, that's a thing too.
I don't remember what it was. Spanish fly. Bill Cosby, made a joke in his 1980s stand-up or whatever, where he was like, I'll give her a little Spanish fly, it'll open her right up. And then it turns out he's fucking like drugging women with their roots. So like using nootropics with a certain blah 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 like function to try to like drug somebody.
That is an important, that is 100% an important distinction. 300% never thought about using it on the other person.
I'm so glad that you're 300%.
Yeah, it has to be 300% because my God, no. It was me kind of like, so one of the things that I've been in like present day researching is a nootropic stack, which we talked about earlier, which is just like combining things that would help me with my social anxiety, because it limits me in a lot of ways, where like I'm otherwise I feel confident in myself when I'm alone, but I have gone and missed social occasions, or I've not participated in chats, or I've just done certain things and held myself back because of my social anxiety. And I realized how crippling it could be for me. So I've been very interested in, and that's what's important with nootropics or all of those things. It's attainable goals. You don't want to like be able to fly off the fly, because that's not going to happen, but anytime soon. But like things like being a little more productive or being a little more less anxious. Those are things goals that I've been trying to achieve. So for me, that's why that's in my ideal character, because it's access. I don't think that I'll always be this person, but to be able to kind of turn that on and be less anxious and be less like in my head and feel more confident is definitely a goal that I'm trying to attain. But in my new body, I definitely want that to be easy and quick for me to do for myself. If it doesn't work out and they're not interested in me and the robot's just like not digging it, that's fine too. But at least I know I felt confident. I did what I had to do.
I fuck with it.
This was a whole vision here, guys. Been thinking about this a while.
We can see that. I like that. I like the biohacked you in the biohack world.
Thanks.
Mine is also knees. That is actually the literal first thing I thought about. It was probably as my knees were hurting me. Knees are just like
so vital.
They're vital, but like that's when we talk about like how the human condition could be improved. It depends on like where you come from, like a religious and spiritual standpoint. But if you come from purely like an evolutionary standpoint, there are some things that like could be better, or like we kind of just like it's not so great. So like I remember like watching this YouTube video from like SciShow or something like that, where it was like knees are just like human knees are just like destined to fail. Like they're just not
100%.
They're not good. So I was like, I'm installing titanium knees.
There you go. Wow, we just knew you had to.
I didn't have the lubrication like you though, so I think that's fucking cool. I also was like, not my impact play hand that I mentioned earlier, but I think that could be cool. Honestly, maybe like the left hand, but my right hand, I wanted to have a vibrating hand because I feel like the head game would be crazy for any genital.
Yo, for real. Hold it at the base or hold it inside. You're having a fucking great time. Nah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So vibrating hands. I wrote down wireless network. I don't remember why I said that though. Yeah, I don't remember why I said that. Maybe like accessing like music in order to set vibes when you're not
that's
at
dope.
home.
I thought about that too. So that's a good one.
Yeah. Then I thought, because I recently dyed my hair. Hello, YouTube, if you want to see it. I don't know what world this is because I don't have any fucking basis of this yet, but just like hair that can change on its own. Like
nice.
the robots in Become Human can like fucking shift themselves or whatever. So that would be cool if I could like, oh, I'm going to this punk party or whatever. I'm going to this cyberpunk party and my hair is going to be blue. Oh, I got to go into this like quote unquote professional space. Let me do my hair back black. And then last but not least, it's not biohacking, but I do like if we're going like 100 in the future with this, like the lines between human and cyborg, I want to fuck sex robots, but I don't I don't want to just be me and the sex robot. So like I want partnered human sex with sex robots, and we're all just like
having a good time.
Yes.
It's also funny that we both included sex robots in this. Like we're just like, yeah, we know what we want.
There's definitely some wavelengths, which is why we have the same background on Zoom today. Well, that's really fun. Hopefully we can revisit this in like a couple of months or like a year and be like,
yeah, what's changed?
What's the updates? What's
exactly.
The updates? I would like
hope
to
so
see
too.
It. Okay, well, we're not going to do Fuck You today. That is a segment where we read listener letters, but we would love to know what are all of your thoughts about biohacking for sex. If you're with the shits, what's your biohacking fan fiction? You can email us, DM us, or we can talk about it in our private Patreon Slack chat. Our email address is ihupodcast@gmail.com. You can read your biohacking fan fiction and send us a voicemail by calling 404-491-9158. That is 404-491-9158. Both the email and the number are in the show notes. If this episode made you laugh, helped you learn something, made you feel good, made you question yourself in a good way, made you think about the future, or positively moved you in any sense, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher and let everyone you know that you love these hoes. We appreciate every single last one of you.
And if you would like to follow us on social media,
Social media. That's funny as fuck, bro. That's mad funny. I really like that.
Whoa. If you would like to follow us on social media, you can do so at Interho Uprising without the G on Twitter, Interho Uprising on Instagram and Facebook. You can join our Facebook group by searching Interho Uprising CUMMUNITY. Head to interhouprising.com to sign up for weekly goodies via our newsletter, pay a hoe, or check out our merchandise. And if you would like to follow me, this transhumanist, existential femme,
Yes.
Rodeka at The Darkest Timeline on Instagram or at Exist in Crisis on Twitter.
You can follow me at Slam Rid on Instagram and Twitter. I don't have a cool futuristic thing, but I gotta fucking develop one like Rodeka over here. And also you can follow me at Carmen Sam Diego for travel and food photos. That's all. Have a lovely week.
Bye.
Bye.